Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an article titled, I Had to Become Feminine. Businesswoman, 42 and single, breaks down, ditches feminism to find a husband. And a big shout to Jay for sending me this article. And guys, this article is all about a woman. She is right now in her early 60s, but she's reflecting on her life 20 years ago, right before she got married. And you're going to see in this story, guys, how she, like a lot of gals out there today, was very much very masculine woman, focusing on career, shunning all traditional values and things that are associated with women of the past and things like that. And to no surprise, couldn't get a man. Guys were completely turned off by her. She would repel guys by her personality and all that. But she was doing what the feminist movement told her to do, what the narrative was telling women to do. This is, again, 20 years ago. It's way worse now. And she was miserable. And she realized that she was missing something from her life. She wanted to have a man. She wanted to be married. And she came to realize the only way she's going to be able to do that is by changing herself. Truly changing herself and stop being so masculine and start acting like a girl. And no surprise, when she started doing that, things improved. And you're going to see how things go with her when she met her first husband, how she still had to do a lot of work on herself shaking that off. And I'm doing this, guys, to show you, once again, the damage that the feminist movement has caused. It's one of the elements why there's such a divide right now between men and women, why so many men nowadays have zero interest not only in getting married, and you can't blame, but relationships at all. And there's this great divide, and it's just a big freaking mess. And I gotta tell you, the feminist movement before, at least, was women can get jobs, have careers, make their own money, have credit cards, things like that, vote. But now, and for a while now, the narrative has been trying to change men to be more feminine and mold and change women to be more masculine. And it's a big freaking mess. No guy wants to go out on a date, let alone be in a relationship with a woman that behaves like a dude. It's a total turnoff. If a guy wanted to be with a dude, he'd be with a dude, not with a woman that acts like a dude. And you've all seen this. I'm sure you've seen gals that are actually physically very pretty. Pretty face, good body, and then they start talking. And it's like a dude in a good-looking woman's body. Or the other extreme where literally she won't shave her legs, won't shave her armpits, chopped her hair, as masculine as can be physically and also in her behavior and temperament, but actually is attracted to guys. No guy wants to be with a girl whose armpits look like Chewbacca. No guy wants to be with a girl whose voice is deeper than Darth Vader's. It's a turnoff. Men, masculine men, want a feminine woman. Soft, nurturing, traditional, not ashamed to cook, to clean, to take care of her guy. And we have less and less of that nowadays. Well, she came to realize what happens when you embrace that lifestyle. You get nowhere. And a lot of gals nowadays are just so upset that they can't find a man. And of course they blame the guys, saying guys, they can't handle a strong, empowered woman. No guy wants to be out with a girl that acts like a dude. And guess what? Newsflash, women, feminine women, don't want to be out on a date or relationship with a guy that acts like an emotional, whiny woman. And you got a lot of guys out that way too right now because they've been conditioned to be this way by the narrative, by the media, movies, TV. You see it all the time. So it's a big mess. This is one of the reasons I do what I do, to try to help bring things back in order, in the way things used to be. I'm not saying things in the past didn't have their problems, but you get my point. So it starts off, she says here, this is a long intro, guys, but I had to get my point across. I got a lot of newcomers all the time, and I got to explain things. She starts off, says, Lisa Stingley was supposed to be happy. An accomplished career woman with a headhunting firm in Washington, she was like a superstar in some people's books. There is a glamour to women working outside the home, she says. Yet weirdly, the feminist values Stingley once venerated for garnering success, a genuine sense of accomplishment, suddenly rang hollow. Imagine that. Something was missing. Then, 42 years old, not a man in sight. Stingley panicked, had a breakdown, and decided she wanted marriage. You go home to an empty apartment, she told the Epoch Times. I used to have breakdowns when something would break in my home. I would get so resentful. A man should be fixing this. but the type she was praying for was scarce in the hyper-careerist environment of DC. Her breakdown was an exit sign. Well, something breaking down in her apartment, her saying a man should be fixing this, that kind of goes against the feminist doctrine, don't you think? And by the way, a lot of these career women that only want to go for a guy that's super successful, a lot of these white-collar guys couldn't change the battery on a freaking smoke detector clock, let alone actually fix something. And the type of guys that can usually fix something aren't the type of guys a lot of these these career women, high-earning career women would want anyway. She says here, a total transformation of her career's views followed, delivering her from her feminist wilderness that she was mired in. It took humility and digging deep, but she rebuilt herself, and all she thought was she knew of womanhood. It was worth it, she says. Certain things are ingrained. The sooner you embrace them, the better. The year was 2002 when her embracing began. And what she means by certain things are ingrained is I'm guessing, referring to nature. Nature has programmed us all in a certain way. Okay, it's our default mode. The problem is that people don't like certain things, and usually those types you have to question their, you get my point on that one. Question who they're attracted to. Wink, wink, nod, nod. They don't like that, so they need to try to change the narrative and make women to be like men and men to be like women, and when you do that, it screws everything up. Nature's designed men to be go-getters, taking charge, the hunter, the protector, the warrior. Nature's designed women to be nurturing and loving and feminine and taking care of the family, taking care of their man, all those types of things. And when we go further and further away from that, it turns into a freaking mess. This is what we have right now, and this is what she was embracing what the narrative said to be, and she was freaking miserable. A race for a husband. Stingley's off-ramp led to Texas, where she moved in with her sister and brother-in-law in Irving. A reassignment trailed her, that she would pick from a pool of broken people, but that never happened. Maybe things weren't so dire after all. My sister and her husband were scheming around finding me a husband, and normally that would have humiliated me. But I'm like, scheme away. Interesting she goes to Texas to find a man. You're going to find a manly man in Texas. Stingley was very ready, or so she thought. Within 2 months, in August, her sister and brother-in-law, avid runners, hooked Stingley up with a runner fella at Fort Worth's annual Runners Club Labor Day race. Richard, an aerospace engineer, wasn't broken. They hit it off, and in December, they were hitched, though their happily ever marriage wouldn't happen overnight. Smack! What the hell is wrong with them? Met in August, got married in December? This is movie bullshit. That's crazy. How are you going to get to know somebody that well in 4 months to get married to them? Or 4 or 5 months, whatever the hell it is. You need years to be with someone to really get to know them in and out. She could fake the feminine thing to rope in a guy. Okay? But once they're married, and by the way, she's talking about how she realized she was wrong and realized the feminist movement is bullshit. You're going to get more into that later on in the article. But it takes a while to adjust ways that we have. A lot of guys who watch me have become conditioned to be these pushover, nice guy, blue pill types. They're not going to change to be RP'd, self-respecting guys overnight. It takes some time. Same with her. But you'll see. And she's doing this whole transformation thing. That's great if it's real. But if it's bullshit just to trap a man, then go back to her old ways, that's a bad thing. Fortunately, that's not the case. It says here they got married. That old job of Stingley's, like some perverse testosterone treatment, had made her masculine, she says. The dynamism so intoxicating in the corporate world now affronted both her husband and her harmonious marriage. Translation, her masculine ways was turning off her husband. Shocker. She says, I was loud, I was boisterous, I gave off, I call it repellent, male repellent, she said. I was so controlling. I think the culture encourages men to be controlled and to be submissive, which I did not want. So I was determined not to do that, but that took years. See? She's conditioned by the feminist movement right here to be controlling, to control and make men submissive. That's what modern feminism wants to do. And she admits it took years. Right here she said, I was loud, I was boisterous, I gave it off as a repellent. That shit turns men off. It's like a bunch of noisy guys in the locker room. She sounds like she's behaving like a dude. Now, don't get me wrong. You get a bunch of girls together at a girl's house to have wine one night, and you get 4 or 5 women together. They can be so loud you can hear them 5 counties away. But this is different. She said, I had to become more feminine. Her chronically scrutinizing Richard didn't jive very well, despite his own effeminate leanings. There was room for just one tiger on this mountain. She caught herself in time. She says the effeminate teaches to keep men wrapped around your finger, and she rejected that. Honestly, women are repelled by male weakness, she admitted, but they can't stop destroying their own nest. See what you just said there? Honestly, women are repelled by male weakness, but they can't stop destroying their own nest. In some of these stories I go over, both here and the other channel, what is one of the most common things, the common denominator in all those things? Men acting weak, being total pushovers, putting all her needs and wants ahead of his, putting himself in harm's way in many ways to make her happy. All these weak ass bitch things, never checking her, never calling her disrespect, letting her walk all over him, acting weak. And the women treat their guy like shit. Don't get me wrong, these women are a-holes, but you get my point. This is why men can't act weak. But our society, and the narrative is molding men to act weak, both physically and emotionally. And you guys see this all the time. And it turns them the hell off. But the interesting thing, these masculine women actually want masculine men. But masculine men don't want masculine women. Turning her gaze inward, she fixed herself first. As she changed, he changed, and peace followed. Well, imagine that. She stopped acting like a dude and started behaving like a feminine woman, and all of a sudden he's starting to find her more attractive. Now watch how she describes what she did to go about that transformation. She says she cultivated femininity purposely. She stopped despising girly things like making dinners, but humbly embraced nurturing home ambience. She put on the dress, put on the earrings, shave your armpits, do your hair, and love it, she said, adding be chaste. Right. A woman, if she has short hair, dresses like crap, doesn't do her nails, doesn't wear any makeup, overweight, all that, that's going to turn any guy off. But if all of a sudden, physically, grows her hair long, goes to the salon, keeps it well, nails, a little bit of makeup, not Ronald McDonald or the Joker makeup, but a little bit of makeup, loses the weight, tones up her body, wears form-fitted clothes, some dresses, she cooks for her guy, things like that, boom, like that, all of a sudden she's going to get way more dudes paying attention to her. There you go, it's not that hard, but the modern narrative says you can't do that. Girl shouldn't have to shave her legs, shave her armpits, shouldn't have to grow her hair. She can have a short Rachel Maddow haircut, and that's okay. And they all look like freaking Sarah Huckabee, except with short hair. Total turnoff. Fix all that, night and day difference. But a girl can look feminine, but she's got to act feminine. If her voice is deep like James Earl Jones, and she's masculine and take charge and wants to run the show, doesn't make it how good she looks physically, still going to turn guys off. We can see through that. It says here, the media is dismantling marriage. If being chaste seems out of touch today, Stingley, a devout Christian, knows why. TV and media, besides spewing feminism, tear women down by glamorizing promiscuity. Yes, promoting the carousel riders. Unmarried women acting like wives, doing laundry, having sex, making meals, defeats what men were created for, Stingley says, which is to honor you, to sacrifice for you. Elevating oneself lifts others around you, including men, bringing them up to what they're supposed to be, she added. The men you want to marry, they will love that, and it gets that ring on your finger in record time. In other words, let men feel like men. Let men be men. Or I'm not going to say let, but just you get my point there. How the media portrays relations seems slanted, most towards dismantling marriage. Those shown having affairs are tremendously happy, she observed. The homosexual component couples, very happy. The married couples, hating each other. Well, that's one area that the media and movies actually does portray accurately, because sadly, most people that are married after a while are miserable. Okay, at best, most, I'm saying most, are like roommates raising the kids, and yeah, they may like each other, but there's no more any romance going on, and they can take or leave each other, or they hate each other's guts. Very rare. I mean, very rare. Can you have a married couple, especially with kids, that actually really love each other? I was fortunate. This shocks a lot of people. My mom and dad were very much in love. Okay, they would always hold hands out in public. They'd say, I love you, hug, kiss. I mean, there was affection. While I saw other people growing up, other friends, families, it was the exact opposite. Always fighting. It was always uncomfortable there. And I couldn't believe it. A lot of people think that I grew up in a miserable household, divorced and all that. No, quite the opposite. My mom and dad loved each other to the day my dad died. She says, men too are harmed by this scourge of feminism. When women become like men say sayonara. Yes, we do. They just leave society. They just don't marry. They play video games when they feel ostracized from society by women, put down. It's open season on men. They check out and there's no one to marry. But women can recapture it. They easily come alive again. Yeah, so many guys, rightfully and understandably, are done with relationships. They're definitely done with marriage for many reasons, which I talk about all the time, and especially because of how men get raked over the coals in the family courts. It's awful. But also, the attitude a lot of the gals have nowadays, how many have become very masculine thanks to the feminist movement. These guys don't want to be out with girls that act like dudes and to boss them around, expect them to do this, this, and this, and they feel like their manhood has been robbed of them, amongst many other things. No one can blame guys. And these women are out scratching their heads saying, where are all the good men? Why doesn't he want to marry me? Why doesn't he want to commit? Well, duh. For eons, women have embraced having both babies and husbands. Traditional mothers were the backbone of nations. Men sacrificed. We lost sight of that. We are so independent, we dare not be dependent on another human being. And I think it hurts. It's an attitude that is risk-free. It says here, turning women into wives. This August marks 20 years from when they first met. Stingley, now 63 years old, rates their marriage a 10 out of 10, a far cry from the rocky 1 or 2 when they started. Well, then why the hell did they get married when they were like at a 1 or 2? But she was desperate to get married. And by the way, I'm going to link the article, and there's pictures of her back when she got married. And you can see that just by her, even though she was starting the transformation to stop being so goddamn masculine, you can see in the picture with her and her husband on their wedding day, even though not bad looking for, early 40s, not bad, you can just tell by her body language that she's very masculine. And you can see by his body language, he's obviously more feminine. And I'm going to guess over time that has shifted, And you know what? If she's really indeed changed and realized the feminist movement was a bunch of bullshit and all that, and she's happy and she says her marriage is a 10 out of 10, awesome. That's wonderful. We need more of that. So good for her. My only problem would be is she's been faking it the whole time, which I don't think she has been. Throughout the years, she's connected with like-minded, marriage-seeking women via website Feminist Fallacy, Girls Night Out Support Group, and the Christian Singles Outreach that she founded for her lonely friends in D.C. She's helped women contend with the pervasive but easily dispersed notion it's easier to get struck by lightning than for a woman to get over 40 to get married. Today, Stingley continues to cultivate the traditional feminine traits she so espouses. What words she has for the young belles still budding in their 20s, their whole lives ahead full of potential. She says, I do not want them to go through what I went through, what my friends have gone through, Stingley said. Marriage is risky, but don't tell me it's not worth it. You can get fired from your job, that's a risk. But what is more devastating? What is more worth the risk? In short, sidestep the abyss and the feminist lies she fell for. Do embrace tradition, which has prescribed societies for eons. Get an education? Yes, it's important. A career? Sure. Working a little before marriage can lead to greater appreciation for what it offers. Family is the essence of life, she added. You won't have to panic when Christmas comes along and you have nowhere to go. Just do it. She advertising for Nike? Just don't marry anybody, but you have options. And don't be afraid to be traditional. Well, there you go. So, what's the point of this whole thing? The first part of her life, she embraced the feminist narrative, and while she did have success in her career, she was lonely, she was unhappy, she was miserable, and she was turning off guys left and right. When she realized there was a bunch of bullshit and the damage it caused, all of a sudden, became a lot happier, found her guy, and even though it was rocky in the beginning because of her, she let go of that crap, and now she's happy and doing well. And I think that's great. And if it's genuine, and I think it is, So the message out there is this: so long as people keep embracing this BS narrative that the feminist movement is putting out there, make women more like men, make men more like women, trying to dominate men, all that is just going to get worse and worse, because there is a divide, absolutely. And it is a shame. But until things start to change, it's going to keep getting worse. And I've seen some things to show where things can slowly start to be changing at this point. At least more people are aware of this, but it's still going to take some time. And if that's the case, more men are going to be not interested in marriage, walking away from relationships altogether. And you all know who to blame on that. Let's be honest here, because a lot of guys out there still would get married in a heartbeat, but now they know how things really are. But that's great. She wrote that article, and maybe some young girls will read this and maybe think twice about certain things, whether it be the carousel riding in their 20s, not making OnlyFans accounts, actually embracing the traditional ways, or not. Will it happen? Who knows? All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below what you think about this. And guys, you come across a really good article to share, by all means, email it to me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. Just give me some time to get to it, and I definitely will later on down the road. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.